Coming to you live from the fabulous MediaPlex in downtown Windsor, this is a St. Clair College journalism presentation.
Hi, I'm Chris Richards, and you're watching MediaPlex News Now. In our top story, the Canadian Mint announced pennies will be phased out in the next few weeks. Rob Bennion has the story.
Big changes are coming. The Government of Canada announced the penny phase-out as part of Economic Action Plan 2012, and February 4th marks the end of penny production and distribution in Canada. As a result, banks will no longer be able to order the 1-cent piece, and stores won't provide it in your change. The penny costs 1.6 cents to manufacture, and the government says halting its production will save taxpayers nearly $11 million per year. However, a local bank employee told me her bank expects to lose approximately $300,000 in 2013 from the phase-out. This is because the government has implemented what they are calling a fair and transparent rounding policy, where every cash transaction will be rounded up or down to the nearest nickel. The phase-out will not affect electronic transactions, and businesses can, at their own discretion, continue accepting pennies for as long as they choose. For further information, visit the Government of Canada website or call 1-800-O-CANADA. I'm Rob Bennion reporting for MediaPlex News Now.
Fans of the BlackBerry smartphone have a reason to celebrate. The BlackBerry Z10 was released today after several delays in the production process. Reports from the UK, where the device was released last week, suggest the new device is selling at a steady pace. The Z10 is expected to typically sell for $150 on a 3-year contract. The downtown core has seen some major changes and initiatives in the last year alone. But how are businesses faring with the changes? Faith Cody-Waltz looks at the turnaround time for businesses in Windsor's downtown core.
It seems as though downtown is a revolving door. We have things incoming, like the university, but other businesses are leaving, such as the beer market. St. Clair College travel and tourism student Carolyn Vermette says turnaround for businesses downtown is exponential.
It's all bars, and it's kind of puts a bad rep on Windsor. And so I know I read in the paper they were talking about how they want more foot traffic, and so they were saying that if they get the people down here, then the businesses will change, and I just don't think it's going to work that way.
So the question is downtown thriving or just surviving? For MediaPlex News Now, I'm Faith Cody-Waltz.
And it's time to head out to the frosty corner of University and Victoria to check in with our weather specialist, Kirsti Ridsdale. Kirsti?
Thanks, Chris. Here's a fun fact. It's National Pancake Day, but don't get that confused with Fat Tuesday. That's not till February 12th. As you can tell, it's a little bit chilly out here at a high of -3 and some light snow flurries. Tonight will be a high of -8, but feel like -15. I'll be back later on the show to let you know what to expect for the rest of the week.
In this edition of 5 Minutes With, Steve Anderson sits down with aquatic ecologist Dr. Jan Siborowski to discuss the water levels in Windsor and what it means to the surrounding ecosystems.
Hi, I'm Stephen Anderson, and this is 5 Minutes With Dr. Jan Siborowski. How long have you been involved with aquatic ecology?
Well, I've been studying aquatic ecology pretty well since I've been at university, and I've been at the university for about 30 years, and I've been working on Great Lakes aquatic ecology since I've been here.
Now, what can you tell us about the lower than usual water levels in Windsor this year?
Well, we've been seeing this happening on and off for quite a while. In fact, when I first came here in the late 1980s, the water levels were at record high, and so there were all sorts of stories about how we're going to deal with flooding and all of those problems. And it's only since the late 1990s and in the last 10 years or so that the water levels have gradually been going down. So it's a fairly recent problem, and it's really tied together with some of the climate change things that we've seen.
Now, what do these water levels kind of suggest for the surrounding ecosystems?
Well, an awful lot of the productivity, an awful lot of the ecosystem health that we see really relates to where the land meets the water. So it's on the shorelines. We have all sorts of wetlands that support the birds, and when we fish, most of those fish lay their eggs, and the larvae spawn in the wetlands and along the shorelines. So if the position of the shoreline changes, that's really important for the ecosystem.
Now, are there any other regions experiencing similar issues?
We're seeing climate change occurring, throughout North America and throughout the world, but we've really seen major differences on the Great Lakes, and although we see the water levels going down on Lake Erie to some extent, the greatest water level losses are actually in Lake Huron and at Georgian Bay.
And why do you think that is?
It's because the shoreline is shallower there, so a small difference in depth makes a huge difference in where the shoreline edge is.
Now, what should people be most concerned about when it comes to these issues?
Well, what we're really seeing is changes in the weather patterns, and that's what's resulting in the change in the levels. We've had a little bit less rainfall, but what's really happening is that as the climate warms, the lakes are covered in ice for a shorter period of time, and what's causing a lot of the water level loss is evaporation. So when we have hot weather, or even if we have cool weather, and the water being exposed, we're constantly losing water to the atmosphere.
Now, you're involved in many different kinds of projects, namely and most recently is Project Gleam. Can you tell us about that?
Well, again, on the shoreline, we see many sorts of stresses going on as our cities expand, as we build more houses, as our agriculture goes on. All of that development removes the natural features of the land, and that causes stress to the environment. So with a whole series of colleagues around the Great Lakes, we've pooled our knowledge together to actually build a map to say, what are the biggest stresses to the Great Lakes and where do they actually occur? And we've built a color-coded map that shows where the greatest threats are to all of the regions of the Great Lakes, the shoreline, the middle of the lakes. We've also done separate maps to say, where are the greatest resources? What are we most dependent on in the Great Lakes? And so where we see the greatest threats overlapping with the greatest resources, that's where we have to be most concerned.
And where are we seeing the greatest threats?
Well, the southern Great Lakes are obviously under the greatest stress. So Lakes Ontario and Lakes Erie have the highest populations, the most development, and that's where we see the greatest number of different risks. And this can be things like runoff from agricultural land, the building up of the shoreline, invasive species like zebra mussels coming, and the threat of Asian carp. All of these things add different types of stress, and they all add up together. So individually they may not be fatal or a concern. If you start to add them all up, you get to see where the greatest risks really are.
Now, through your research, are you finding any ways where this can be remedied or maybe less stress can be taken?
And that's what a lot of our research is to say, we've got so many problems, so many needs, which are the worst ones, where can we get the most value for the dollars we have? So we can look and see which levels are closest to either getting really bad or closest to being restored for the least amount of resources and cost, and that's where we could say that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. That's where you can best solve the problems.
All right, thank you. I'm Stephen Anderson, and this has been 5 Minutes with Dr. Jan Siborowski.
A number of brave Windsorites battled the sub-zero waters in Lake Erie and Kingsville to raise money for charity. Majeka Gorzelnik tells us more.
Over 300 people braved the cold January 26th and dove into the freezing waters of Lake Erie for the 13th annual Polar Bear Dip in Kingsville. The event began as a joint fundraising idea between ChildCan and the Youth and Family Resource Network to increase awareness for families in need and children with cancer, according to Executive Director JENNA FOLEY.
This event has been happening for 13 years now, keeps getting bigger and better, and this year we have over 300 dipplers who are going to go into the lake and come out in support of a good cause.
Leamington Women's Hockey League member TRICIA EPPLETT said their team has been doing the dip for several years in support of a member's son who has been cancer-free for 17 years.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. We try to say it's not bad, but when you run in, it feels like razors.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But it's 5 minutes out of our lives, and
Right.
the kids that are fighting cancer are.
It's a small price to pay.
Exactly. That's exactly how we feel. It's 5 minutes. We're done. We're over, and we have a really fun day.
Over the past 12 years, the dip has raised over $650,000, according to Foley.
Last year we raised $98,000, and this year we're looking to go well above $100,000. So thank you to everybody for your support.
To be a part of the 2014 Polar Bear Dip, contact ChildCan or the Youth and Family Resource Network for more information and pledge sheets. For MediaPlex News Now, I'm Majeka Gorzelnik.
Do you feel differently than you usually do? In this Health Minute, Ashley Goten explains how the winter blues might be making you feel a little sad.
Has the cloudy, snow-laden weather left you feeling a little down? If so, you're not alone. About 2 in every 100 people experience seasonal affective disorder, a more extreme case of the winter blues. SAD, as it is also referred to, can be caused by a lack of natural light and occurs most commonly in the fall and winter months. Those in their 20s are most affected. Geography can also play a role in the disorder, as it is frequently experienced by people who live in areas with northern climates, such as Windsor. Symptoms of the disorder may include decreased stamina and energy, the inability to focus, or a change in appetite and cravings. There are a few easy ways to cope with SAD. Take advantage of sunny days and daylight hours, watch what you eat, keep your sugar levels constant, limit your alcohol and caffeine intake, as alcohol is a depressant and caffeine gives you only a brief boost. Keep yourself moving by exercising and regulating your sleep schedule. If possible, take a vacation and get away for a while. Visit somewhere sunny and warm. I'm Ashley Godin, and this has been your Health Minute.
St. Clair College students have found a new way to give to children in need. Courtney Turnbull finds out how much one gold paperclip is worth.
Child and youth students from St. Clair College are giving back to children by trading gold paperclips. A group from the Thames campus in Chatham are asking businesses to trade something for their paperclips. Donated items will be auctioned off at the end of March, and all proceeds will be going towards children and youth programs of the student's choice. The idea came from Canadian blogger Kyle McDonald, who bartered his way with a red paperclip until he eventually got a HUFFS. Tiffany Owen, a student participant in the project, said she hopes to raise awareness to the community.
We're facing a lot of hunger, homelessness, so we hope to bring awareness, and I hope that we are able to raise a lot of money so we can donate it to a lot of the services in the both communities that help out these children.
Coordinator of the program, Joy Kemble, said students really depend on the community to help them with this project.
Each time someone participates in the sign-on auction, they're making life better for an adolescent or child in one of our communities, Windsor or Chatham Kent.
If you would like to trade to the students and donate to the silent auction, visit cywpaperclip@outlook.com. From MediaPlex News Now, I'm Courtney Turnbull.
Sergeant Matthew Dasty of the Windsor Police Service sat down with our own Alice Hewitt to talk about social media in another edition of 5 Minutes With.
I'm Alice Hewitt, and today I'm spending 5 minutes with Sergeant Matt Dasty, Public Information Officer for the Windsor Police Service. Now, in June of last year, the Windsor Police launched their Facebook and Twitter to better connect with the community. What has been the response to that?
The response has been overwhelming. It's been absolutely excellent for the community, excellent for the police service. It's given us an avenue to reach out to the community and open up dialogue. Something that we knew would happen, but probably something we didn't fully understand until we got right into it. And we're certainly reaping the benefits of social media now.
So you think social media is an important tool for police services?
Absolutely. You know, we knew that it was something that was on our radar. It's something that we were exploring and looking at. But certainly social media is not going away, and it's here to stay. We know that. And as a responsible police agency, we made the decision to get into social media, to use that as an avenue to communicate valid and relevant information with our community.
And how often are these forums updated? Like, has the workload increased for the Windsor Police Service?
You know, it's a very, very busy position, no doubt. So right now, presently, I'm the Public Information Officer. So I work a Monday to Friday job, and daily we are doing a daily news report, and we're releasing that on Twitter and on Facebook. So those reports go out Monday to Friday. We're also branching out. We're training certain members of our agency to be able to use those communication tools as well. So eventually we will have 24/7 coverage, and the importance of that is to inform people what's going on in the community. If there's something that needs to be out there in the public right away, some relevant information, we'll be able to establish that immediately. As you know, it's immediate information, and that's what's so wonderful about it.
Since more and more police services are adapting to the social revolution, are you finding it easier to connect with other police departments?
Absolutely. There's no question about that, because there is a network for sure within other police agencies. And a lot of us reach out to each other, and we do training together sometimes at conferences, and we are following each other and liking each other on social media. So we're getting updates from other agencies, and we're also learning from each other as well. As social media develops for the Windsor Police Service, we're certainly encouraged in watching other agencies who have been doing it a little longer than us, and we're learning from them, and we're developing things ourselves as well.
That's perfect. Now, you've touched upon this before, but you said you post about ongoing cases and such. How has this benefited the police service?
Well, you know, it's really excellent because I can give you an example. Just last week, we had a robbery in the city, and the image of the suspect was provided to us. It was obtained through security surveillance systems. And within hours of that offense happening, we were able to upload that image and blast it out through social media, and it really blew up, literally. It was going viral. It was being shared with our followers. We were encouraging people to share it, to retweet it, to get it out there, because we know that the more people who see that image, the more likely it is that we're going to be able to identify this person. So that type of information that goes out, it helps. It helps the Windsor Police Service, and it helps the community, and it brings us together closer to a common good. It's a bond that we establish with the community, and it builds trust. Trust that the public can have in us as a police agency, that we're properly serving our communities, and that we're here to conduct business, and that we want to be open, we want to be approachable and transparent to our communities. And this has certainly given us a venue to do that, and it's been absolutely incredible for us.
Now, last year, a number of police officers in England were actually disciplined for what they posted via their Twitter accounts. Are Windsor police officers encouraged to have their own Twitter accounts, and are they monitored in any way?
Well, you know, we are aware that police officers do have their own Facebook and Twitter accounts. There's no question about that. But for security reasons, we tell our officers what they should and should not be putting on their accounts. And it's basically for their own personal security and for the security of their family as well. But there is some training that is going on within the service to better educate people about, you know, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate when you're dealing with police officers using the accounts.
Okay. And one last question for you. Will there be a reduction in services due to the arbitration award?
You know, I know that Chief Al Frederick has made a commitment to the community, and there will not be a reduction in services. We're committed to the community. We realize as a police agency with the award that's been given to us that you know, we have to maintain our budget, and we'll be closely looking at that for sure.
Okay. I'm Alice Hewitt, and I've just spent 5 minutes with Sergeant Matt D'Asti, Public Relations Officer for the Windsor Police Service.
Super Bowl Sunday was this past weekend and saw the Baltimore Ravens defeat the San Francisco 49ers with a score of 34-31. The game was watched by approximately 108.4 million viewers, down from 111.3 million watching last year. Despite this decline, Super Bowl 47 ranked as the third most watched program in television history. Tourism and hospitality students at St. Clair College were able to mingle with potential future employers. Adam D'Andrea reports.
On January 30th, tourism and hospitality students at St. Clair College got a chance to meet and mingle with potential future employers. Students were greeted by members of the hospitality and tourism industries at the St. Clair Center for the Arts Industry Trade Show, which is part of St. Clair's Career Information Days. Students were heavily encouraged to try and network with as many industry members as possible, and ended the day with a keynote address from Director of Continuous Improvement at Caesars Windsor, Joseph Moore. Steve Meehan, who is the Executive Director and Chef at Grill 55, said the event is important because it is a step in the door for students to receive real experience in their field.
The kitchen, whatever it may be, it shows the students what we're really doing out there and what the actual industry is all about. It gives them that first-hand knowledge that you really can't get while you're in school. And, you know, I think it's a great asset to them.
In addition to interacting with industry professionals, students were also encouraged to open their minds to new and exciting career choices they may not have considered in the past. The two-day event ended with a full day of seminars and guest speakers on January 31st. Reporting for MediaPlex News Now, I'm Adam D'Andrea.
The COLASANTI Craft Show took place over the weekend. Haley Trailout tells us the story.
COLASANTI's Tropical Gardens held its third annual craft show February 2nd, where over 60 local vendors set up booths to sell various homemade merchandises. Stands filled the halls of the venue, displaying everything from scarves, pens, framed photos, candles, and more. The show was run by Ashley Colasanti, who said the event has been kicked up a few notches, making it more successful as each year passes.
The purpose for the event is just to do something fun in the winter. We have a lot of people asking us from the local community, can we come out and sell items in your facility, just because there's not a lot of opportunities in the summer to be able to sell the things that they make. And so we decided to take one of our slower months and turn it into a venue for the local crafters in our community to be able to showcase and sell some of their product.
Patty HUFFSTETLER was one of the attendees and said that despite the long drive from Windsor, she enjoys the comfortable atmosphere Colasanti's provides.
It's always nice to see local artisans plying their trade and putting their stuff out there for the public, and I've always been a big fan of homemade and home-crafted items as opposed to the big store-bought, big box stores.
Despite the horrible road conditions, Colasanti's Tropical Gardens still had a very successful craft show. Their next show will be November 2nd. Reporting for MediaPlex News Now, I'm Haley Trelout.
And let's head back outside and see what Kirsti Ridsdale has to say about the rest of this week's forecast.
Thanks, Chris. Did you know that February 5th, 1971, astronauts landed on the moon in the Apollo 14 mission? Now let's take a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Wednesday will be sunny and a high of -5 Celsius and a low of -9. Thursday calls for light snow and a high of 0 with a low of -7. Friday will be partly cloudy and reach a high of -1 with a low of -7. You can see more of our stories at our website at themediaplex.com, or follow us on Twitter at @the_MediaPlex, or even like our Facebook page at MediaPlex Canada. From the corner of Victoria and University, I'm Kirsti Ridsdale. Back to you in that warm studio, Chris.
Team Canada's Shawai Jiao team held a fundraiser at Bolero. Alice Hewitt attended the event.
Team Canada's Shawai Jiao team better start packing their bags. The team held a fundraiser at Bolero to raise the necessary funds to compete in the World Shawai Jiao tournament in China. Shawai Jiao is one of the oldest forms of wrestling and dates back to approximately 2697 BC. 11 competitors from the Yushan Temple will be traveling to Shanghai on March the 20th. Sean BARDGETT has been with the group for 4 years. He said he has been involved in about 7 tournaments, but this will be the first time he has competed in China.
I think there's somewhere between about 30 or 40 countries that are going to be competing in this tournament. It's not the most high-profile sport, but it is because it's still Shuai Jiao is still more of a combat or a martial art than a sport itself. But it's starting to get more of a following with a lot of the people here.
The group has been training 3 to 4 times a week at the temple, and has a long history of being part of St. Clair College, whether as a student or as a teacher. Sifu J. McCoy is a teacher at St. Clair College and has been involved in Kung Fu since 1992.
There are 19 divisions, 10 men's divisions and 10 women's weight divisions. We have only filled 11 spots, so we're hoping that's enough to place top 6th again. Ideally, we'd like to place higher, of course, and maybe be the first Western country to ever place in the top 3.
The upcoming tournament will run from March 22nd to March 23rd and marks the second time Team Canada has participated. For MediaPlex News Now, I'm Alice Hewitt.
A local boxer is getting his fair share of attention. As James Zimmerman tells us, not only is it in the ring, but on the big screen as well.
A local boxer is the subject of a new documentary showcasing his life and boxing career. Justin Hocko is ranked #1 in Canada and trains at Rough Boxing Gym in Windsor. Filming started in September and will continue for the next few months. A rough cut of the documentary was shown January 19th.
We had an opportunity to do a fundraiser at Lakeshore Cinemas, and when I was given the opportunity, I figured I might as well show a movie about me. That I'd get a lot more people than if I just showed like a random movie. And so we did a rough cut that was about 30 minutes long, and it went really well. I had about 150 people there.
Justin's manager, Ali MANSOUR, has been involved with him for a little over a year and says the choice to manage him was an easy one.
Justin is a world-class athlete, and we want to highlight that spot for him.
Justin's first fight was at the age of 10. Now 20 years old, he hasn't forgotten the lessons he's learned.
When I was younger, when I was coming up, I always fought people who were bigger and older, like tough American fighters and stuff, and that's how I got good, because I fought the best, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but that's how I got where I am.
Justin Hoko will be traveling to Puerto Rico February 8th to continue his training for the Independence Cup taking place on February 17th in the Dominican Republic. For MediaPlex News Now, I'm James Zimmerman.
Evan Mathias and Ashley Davidson sit down to talk about the Super Bowl in this week's edition of Sports Talk.
Hi, welcome to another edition of MediaPlex Sports Talk. I'm Ashley Davidson. Next week, we'll have the return of Wolfie and Benny, but with me today is Evan Mathias.
Hey, Ashley.
So, we just finished Super Bowl 47. Let's go over the key points of this game.
Well, you know, the Ravens got off to a big start early on. That was capped off by Jacoby Jones' 108-yard kick return for a touchdown. They just came out too early, and the 49ers were unable to come back from that.
Now, I mean, the 49ers gave it a big shot. They tried, and they got it close. I mean, everybody was sweating in that game. But they just couldn't get there. Now, why do you think that is?
Well, again, the Ravens got off to such a big start in the first half there. The 49ers made a miraculous comeback, just cut short. And arguably, there was a few penalties that may or may not have been called. And I think that's what really hurt them.
So, what the big story from this was the 34-minute power outage at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. What do you think that did for both teams?
For the Ravens, I think it mentally hurt them. They were unable to focus on the game. They just kept thinking about, you know, we're about to win a Super Bowl, we're getting close. And for the 49ers, it let them relax, and then they got back into it. They said, you know, we're still in this game, we can come back from this.
Now, the Ravens won the Super Bowl, 34-31. Joe Flacco was named MVP of the game, and he still has not been signed to another contract. What do you think is going to happen there?
You know, I think he's going to re-sign. I saw on ESPN, he said he's a Raven for life, and so I think he's going to re-sign in the offseason for a long-term deal, and he'll stick with the team.
I couldn't agree more. That has been another edition of MediaPlex Sports Talk. We'll see you next week.
The Windsor Express broke a 4-game losing streak. Jessica Brisebois was at the game.
The Windsor Express are giving their fans something to cheer about. This after snapping a 4-game losing streak against their rivals, London Lightning, 99-93. Forward Chris Commons of the Express shot 7 for 7 from the free throw line, adding 28 points for the team.
You do want to play your best versus London. They're the best team in the league right now, but tonight it wasn't really about the jersey, it was more about us. Like I just wanted to do what I could for the team.
Commons said he has been struggling with rebounds, however was pleased with the win. This was Windsor's first win at home since December. He said the motivation to play a good game comes from the fans. Windsor Express's Stefan Bono knocked down 2 free throws in the last quarter, assisting the team in their victory. Both London Lightning and Windsor Express are in playoff contention. Windsor Express are looking for their fans to fill the stands at WFCU on February 6th when they play host to Oshawa Power. I'm Jessica Brisebois reporting for MediaPlex News Now.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Chris Richards, and you've been watching MediaPlex News Now.
MediaPlex News Now is a production of the St. Clair College Journalism Program.